Hey guys, it's Joey, and this is my experience with this week's rune, or last week's rune technically, Laguz. Set up with some fluorite and some smoky quartz and some amethyst and the tarot cards. All sort of methods of divining and looking into the psyche, which is what a lot of this week was about. I started off this week looking at the drawing that I did, thinking I wasn't quite sure about it, and if you haven't seen it, it's a lot of kraken, which is a giant octopus or squid imagery. And at first I wasn't quite sure why I'd drawn it, and I look back on it thinking perhaps this is my psyche sort of keying in, and it just so happened it was. The squid or kraken are naturally flexible, creative, and they have an air of mystery and mystique because they are as unknown as the waters beneath them. They have the ability to transform colour and disappear. They take on the symbolism of the water itself, the psyche, emotion, fluidity, intuition, and strategy, secrecy, and the power of reason. And it seemed to me to not be too far from the reasons to fear female power. For unknown reasons, octopi often turn on themselves, devouring their own selves, from tentacles until they kill themselves. Self-destruction can be a negative aspect of this rune as well. They can also disengage limbs under attack and regrow them. It's about self-generation. So that day there was a lot of light and dark imagery on the route where I went to the neighbouring town. Within the sky, clouds were half light and half dark, and the fields around us seemed to be half in light and half in shadow. We had lunch at the Lamb, and then later I saw a dead fox on the road. It wasn't until I sat and thought about it that I had realised that I had pulled 3 cards the day before, and the second card was the 4 of Swords, which has a lamb with swords above it, and then the death card, not the death card, the 10 of Swords card, the sort of very, very bleak card. I also found a grouping of 9 rowan berries on my way home as a symbol of protection from the goddess. I also felt very drawn to Picasso, jasper and turquoise that day. Picasso jasper telling you to celebrate life and it's not too late to live. Turquoise has been very influential for me this week, and they're protective against the outside influences, creating the ability to problem solve and dissolve self-sabotage, and allows self-expression. The following day I noticed just how many doorways were popping up everywhere, in videos, art, pictures. Some are more archways of nature, both natural and man-made. Some are huge stone archways, usually with light and dark imagery also tying within them. One was a closed autumny door, but mostly they are open archways or open doors. Walking through archways, openings, beginnings, stepping through certain perspectives to see what's on the other side, initiation, new phase of life, opportunity, symbol of universal law, there is always another way. Pillars of archways indicate the duality, mirroring the light and dark image I saw yesterday. Move forward and your world will not crumble, only expand, protection is here. And then, as if to reaffirm the message, a double rainbow in the sky, the ultimate archers. The following day I was musing about the turquoise, the colour, as well as the gemstone, enlightenment, many lives, spirituality in action, awareness, cosmic consciousness, awakening, healing, increases intuition and reduces stress. And I even had more references to double rainbows today from completely unrelated places. It wasn't people commenting on my double rainbow. It was someone in America making a joke about something to do with something completely irrelevant and wouldn't have known about the double rainbow in a million years. Black panthers also started popping up everywhere tonight. Awaken inner passions. This is capable of manifesting in unbridled expressions of baser powers and instincts, reclaiming one's true power. Time of rebirth after suffering, death on some level, and all issue may finally become resolved. Old wounds start to heal, mastery over dimension, spirit of imminent rebirth. A couple of days later, because I didn't feel like recording until a few days later, 2 or 3 days later, whilst the store continues to flow and keep positive in that aspect of my life, Problems keep arising within the general community and society at large with regards to judgmental natures and words being flung carelessly without thought or consequence. There's bitterness in the very air right now. I experienced my troll again ripping directly from a video for no other reason than spite and conflict. I've seen conflicts across the board which have nothing to do with me personally, but in a community sense. It's like stale air that needs a thunderstorm to clear it. I feel empathically drained by it, and for 2 days have retreated away from communication with anybody. The overwhelming sense of pessimism has led to me feeling down and depressed and quite ill from this cloud of poison. If this rune is going to cleanse this, it better happen fast. Friday the 13th, day of the goddess and of death. I found a crow's egg right in my path as I went for a walk this morning. The information about this day is really interesting, all about perception, how originally Friday the 13th was not bad luck, but about the goddess, 13 being sacred to femininity, menstrual and lunar cycles, and the day itself being sacred to many female deities. I actually put a video up all about that if you want to hear a little bit more about the perception of Friday the 13th and how patriarchal societies have made it into something quite negative, whereas originally it was all about feminine power, as well as the death goddess Morrigan, as far as I'm concerned. I was watching more videos and the topic came up of the Native American Code, and this ethics was actually read by the elemental witch. Do not take what is not yours, whether from a person, a community, the wilderness, or from culture. If it was not earned or given, it is not yours. And the final statement that I came across this week was, warriors are not born, they are made. Warriors create themselves through trial and error, pain and suffering, and their ability to conquer their own faults. So this week has been very much about perception, judgment, mistake making, the problems that arise with how to, or many different people see different aspects of a statement, or how people are affected by judgment. There's been a lot of negativity this week, and I don't know whether or not it's the negativity of the rune. I mean, the rune, one of the rune's negative interpretations is women bringing trouble into your life, or a particular woman bringing a lot of trouble and unhappiness into a life, as well as the failure to act on the wisdom of your instincts. And whereas there has been a lot of images, particularly to do with sort of psychic awareness and intuition, so the imagery surrounding the kraken was very intuitive. I wasn't sure about it. I went and looked at what it actually meant. It was actually quite spot on for the imagery for the rune. And then there's sort of the light and dark imagery, and it's all about balance. It's all about the fact that there is goodness and not goodness. Light and dark aren't necessarily associated with good and bad, but there are the two sides to every self. I've created the spider kit this week, which was about the shadow self and the light self in balance, and my creative processes have been quite strong this week. I've been quite in touch with myself, with both sides of myself, but I've been quite retreaty from general communities, just because there seems to be a lot of words, a lot of judgments flung around, and it's not just in the pagan community, it's not just in the YouTube community. I've seen it everywhere. I've seen it in life, I've seen it with people I've interacted with. Like if there's a misunderstanding and things get out of proportion and things get quite nasty, that's happened quite a bit this week. I've been hanging on to my piece of turquoise this week like nobody's business to help dissolve the self-sabotage, because that has been through a thread throughout all of this, is that people are actually self-sabotaging by not taking a minute to express themselves politely, correctly, with sympathy and or compassion. The archways, the doorways, it's been very much a feeling like this might be the culmination of the death of things to allow for a new aspect. So it might be that the doorways were there to say, you know, this is coming, and you have to pass through the doorway before the rebirth part, which hopefully is going to come soon. Although given the next rune, I don't think it is. I think the next the next rune is going to indicate that we need to pause before that comes to fruition. And I think that's all we need to really say this week. There's been clouds of negativity all over the place. There's been a poisoning atmosphere for a lot of it, and it's not something I ever wanted to engage in for many reasons. Mainly because I think it is destructive to oneself to overly engage with too much of that negativity, to overanalyze what someone else is doing to a ridiculous degree. It's not going to help anybody, especially not yourself, and therefore I have, for the most part, stepped away from things this week, been very retreative, and the next rune looks like it's going to continue for a week. It's going to be more about taking on some time to analyse what's going on, to use divination, to sort of structure yourself with your own integrity and with your own inner self, to sort of process and digest what's been going on rather than overly engaging too much. So that's going to be it for this week's vlog video. Many blessings.